Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Red Rising, chapters 37 through 40. I'm trying to find the titles of these chapters here, guys. Sorry. South, The Fall of Apollo, The Proctor's Bounty, and Paradigm. In these chapters, I think that we've nabbed the Jackal. But I don't feel great about this. I want to so bad, but I don't feel that great about this. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Ashley for commissioning this episode. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Alex, it was you. Alex is here in the chat. Thanks, Alex. It was you. I'm so sorry. I was reading the wrong day. You guys, I'll tell you what. I think this is probably the hardest time I have had since the Cradle books of stopping reading when I meant to stop reading. Oh my God. And I'll be honest, I over-listened on the audiobook because I got so engrossed, and I didn't listen, I didn't listen like the whole next chapter or anything, but I listened like a few minutes into the next chapter, just enough to be like, ooh. So I just want to tell you guys the truth about that I finally kind of came to my senses and was like, wait a second, hold on, and check it and be like, oh, I gotta stop. But yeah, I don't like any of this. And what bums me out the most about this is that, like, and I'm getting ahead of myself as I do, but you guys, I lose track of, like, why we're here. The point of being here, right, is so that Darrow can rise through the ranks and he can get some power and do something to help the Reds. And so the fact that he's, like, spitting in all their faces probably isn't the best way to do that. I want to be like, oh, if he spits in their faces enough, it will just impress them, and that will still ensure that he, like, rises through the ranks. But I don't believe that anymore. We have seen so many times the way that people get slapped down if that they're not functioning the way they are expected to within the system. So I'm clinging very much to a sort of YA trope that, oh, if you break the rules and you think you're in huge trouble, actually it turns out that you did something amazing that impressed everybody. Like when Harry gets in the fight with Malfoy to get back Neville's Remembrall and he becomes Seeker. Or when Katniss shoots the apple out of the mouth of the pig that they're all excited to eat because the game makers are ignoring her. And she's like, oh, they're going to kick me out. And then, of course, she gets this, like, incredibly high score. All of those things are the character panicking and me sitting there completely complacent as a reader going, oh, come on. You're not going to get in trouble. They're going to think it's so amazing and they're going to be impressed with you. It's the trope. And I am looking at what's going on here and thinking that is happening. And I'm starting to be like, what if it's not, though? Like, I keep thinking, despite being shown repeatedly, they do not like when people don't fall in line. I mean, we have Severo, and let's not even get into whose son he is. But, like, the very fact that all of this is being proven over and over to be a farce and a setup, I'm still out here like, don't worry, Darrow, they're going to love you. They don't. It is unequivocally being shown to me. They do not love him. They do not appreciate him bucking the order of things. And I can't help but be like, well, I guess fuck the plan then. Good. Go ahead and show them. But that's not the point. He's putting his pride in a sense, and I hesitate to just use the word pride because it's not that simple, but I'm going to just say that as a shortcut. He wants to put his pride and principles ahead of the overall goal. And I am making that same mistake with him as a reader, and then having to step back and be like, wait, hold on. He wants to prove something because this is against the rules and straight up bullshit. And he wants them to feel shame about it, or to at least be kind of caught out. And he's not getting the response that he was looking for, and he's trying to force it. And I'm just like, dude, the reason you're not getting the response that you were looking for is because that's not, like, you can't shame these people. This is how the system is meant to function. Like, the shaming can only happen if there is a sort of agreement that has been broken, and that could happen if it went high enough and was noticed by the right people, but it isn't going to be. It's remaining localized enough that they can still get away with it. So you're not going to get the reaction that you're looking for, bro. And I want him to so bad. Like, do not mistake me. I'm fully on his side, but that's not the right side for the bigger picture, the cause. And it's so infuriating because I want it to be really bad. I want so much, y'all. I can't even express to you how much I want this to be the way, because my personal sense of justice is also offended. But that's the problem, is when you have this kind of sense of justice, you lose sight of how the way this system is meant to work eschews what is important to you as somebody who cares about that. So by its very nature, getting attached to fairness is going to ruin your chances at moving upward, because you have got to reach a point where you accept fairness isn't part of it. And I can't do that as a person. I just can't. And some people can. And that's the reason that there are some folks out there who are hoarding so much wealth, because they just are fine with the fact that there are people out there who literally cannot feed themselves or get medical care or find a place to sleep with a roof over their head, because they have accepted, well, I got mine and that's what it's all about. And I cannot do that. And I won't ever be able to reach a point of that kind of success because I can't set that aside. And I'm really, really worried Darrow is the same type, and he's just never going to be able to like get over this and actually carry himself forward, because this is the whole crux of the matter. It's just really, I just don't even understand. Like, yeah, Alex says, I envy those people because I cannot fathom that. It's the kind of thing that, like, I genuinely cannot imagine the kinds of things that just a fraction of their wealth could do and not doing them. I truly can't, because that is what brings personally me joy. Helping other people, it causes a kind of like chemical reaction in my brain. It's ultimately selfish. It makes me feel good. And I guess people like that do not have that kind of chemical reaction, which I think means something's wrong with them. truly, fundamentally broken. They're fucked up. But, you know? So anyway, I know I've gotten way ahead of myself here, kids. But I had to just, right out of the gate. So, starting at 37, he's getting his wounds tended to. It turns out, this lashing really did the trick. And as we see in the coming chapters, Darrow is respected to a point that he is even starting to be like, I'm sort of worried. Everybody is so fucking hardcore. Is this going to be a problem? Like, should I be worried? And honestly, it's kind of funny to see him, after paying such close attention to his own myth and being so careful about how he's cultivating this, to start to go, ooh, that's a lot. And I'm like, yeah, sir, but this is exactly what you allegedly wanted. So I don't know if you get to say anything now. And also, kids, I am really concerned about Mustang, because there is something cryptic said by Fitchner about her, and then she has like the exact same catchphrase that I just am so, I am so worried that it's going to turn out she somehow brought this about because she is playing him. I don't want to believe her, and when he confronts her, her arguments as to why she isn't betraying him make sense. But they would. That's the way you trick somebody. You make it sound like it's all internally consistent. You guys, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about her, and I really don't want to be there. I don't like it. I don't like being in this place with her. I like her, and I want her to be his, like, right hand. And I am starting to think that I'm a goober. So this is when they have to break up and find House Apollo. And it says, winter has forced the house into fortresses. Deep snows and hidden ravines make heavy cavalry sluggish, less useful. The game has slowed, but I won't. Mars and Jupiter can battle it out for all I care. I'll come back for both later. At nightfall, on the second day of our move south, we see the fortress of Juno already conquered by Jupiter. And there's like a girl is said to lead them. She rides a silver horse draped with a leather mantle sewn with unbleached bones. Apparently, the Medbots are not so good in the south. Lilith, I think. Now, the Medbots are not so good, or she's being allowed to do this. If she's working with the Jackal and he's getting preferential treatment, I just have to assume that they're like, yeah, do whatever you need to make yourself look more terrifying. So go ahead and take those bones, I suppose, you know, which is truly gruesome, actually. That these are kids that were trusted to go to the Institute, and the fact that they're dying, I don't know how much their parents expected that to happen. But then the idea that their parents aren't even getting complete skeletons back to bury because somebody wanted to hang on to a fucking trophy? I mean, ouch. You know, it feels a little extreme. That's all I'm saying. So at this point, there's a single rider that he runs into, and I love this. What Darrow does is he like emphasizes his limp. He makes all of his like other, the rest of his army like play in the snow and seem like they're not paying attention. And this guy is out here just calling him like a child and a whiner. And I love this when he says, but the South cannot be worse than the North. I shudder and tell him of the Reaper from the Highlands. He nods when I speak of the Reaper, so he has heard of me. I just really do enjoy the testing to see whether that's the case. And because, you know, it would be very easy for this to be like, so you have heard of me. But it's like for a good reason that he's doing this. So he's able to sort of tests the waters in a way that seems extremely vain, but is actually just on target for his plan. The Reaper of yours is dead. A shame. I would have liked to test myself against him. And he says, we have our own demons, a one-eyed monster in the woods, and a worse monster in the mountains to the west, the Jackal. And we find out the one-eyed monster is Severo. So eventually this dude like slaps Darrow across the face and is generally just trying to be like, you're a piece of shit and pathetic, and we are going to manage you. It is then Mustang throws a snowball at his head. Now, he doesn't react immediately. I watch the man go and feel disquiet seep into me. He rejoins his 30 heavy horse. Our only cavalry is our scouts. They cannot stand against ion blades and ion lances at full tilt, even with the deep snowbanks. Our weapons are still Darrow steel. I don't plan on fighting a battle where I need to for a while. We've not had a bounty after capturing Sarah's fortress and their standard. The proctors have forsaken me, but the weather has not. And the fact that the proctors are straight up not rewarding him for stuff, like, how is that not obvious enough that they notice, even with editing? You know what I'm saying? I can't. The way that Darrow is sort of operating is that he is thinking, if anybody figures out the way that they're cheating, I'm sure they will step in. So I'm going to try and like orchestrate things so that it will be harder for them to edit things out. But I'm like, I don't know if they would step in, dude. Like, you're putting a lot of trust into the bigger system. And I don't know if that's actually going to be your friend here. You know, it's just, again, trusting any system like this is a real gamble. So, this is when Mustang comes up to him and is like, you haven't been sleeping well. He says, when do I ever? And she says, when you slept next to me. And he says, are you inviting me back? And she's like, I never told you to leave. Why did you? And he says, you distract me. And she just sort of laughs and falls back. But Tactus sees the grin and is just like, ooh, you're into her. But you guys, after everything, I'm just sort of like, is she wondering why he hasn't fallen for her tricks yet? Like, I want to trust her. I really, really want to. But I just don't. Is it possible that Fitchner is sort of fucking with him because he knows it'll make trouble to just plant the seed of doubt? I really thought Fitchner was on his side. But I don't know the kind of pressure that's being put on him at this point, you know? So anyway, this is when Tactus begins to be like, so why are we going after Apollo? Like, you're zeroed in on Apollo in a way that feels like there's a reason. It's not just we're checking off houses on our list. It feels like you know something. And Darrow says, once we get Apollo, then I will tell you. And Tactus is also like, so I've noticed some weird tracks in the snow. Graph boots flying really low, wearing ghost cloaks. Why are they following us? And he says, because they're afraid of us. And Tactus is like, afraid of you? I don't think it's about us. But yeah. So that whole thing, once I realized that, like, it's being noticed that the proctors are following, I'm like, all right, is this going to change anything? Like, does other people finding out the way that the proctors are playing this, is that going to matter? You know? So let's see. That night, Pax and Mustang sit with me by a small fire and tell me of their lives outside the school. Pax is a riot when you get him going. A surprisingly energetic talker with a penchant for complimenting everything in his stories, including the villains. So half the time you don't know who's good and who is bad. And I really do enjoy that detail. Anybody who is like that is one of my favorites. Like, if you can respect your opposition, I feel like that's a major point in your favor. And he eventually mentions this woman, Helga. He waxes grandiloquent on Helga's ample proportions, her thick fists, her ample thighs. I love it. It's not about tits and ass. He's like, she could have punched my entire skull in with one fist. It was the hottest thing I ever saw. Like, that's the thing. Thighs, granted. Thighs. I mean, for me with men, I love me some thighs on a man. I cannot get into dudes who only do upper body. You gotta have them thighs. Owen has them thighs. It's a chef's kiss favorite thing. At this point, Tactus comes in and is like, hey, so weird thing. Our horses ran away. Also, all of our bread has weevils in it. Also, and it's just like one thing after another. The soup pots we brought are cracked through. This is so unfair. It makes my blood boil. I know what they're doing, and oh God, it enrages me. It enrages me so bad. Why did Cassius betray you? Mustang asks. Don't lie to me. I betrayed him, actually. It was his brother I had to kill in the passage. Her eyes widen, and after a moment she nods. I had a brother die. It wasn't the same thing, but a death like that, it changes things. Did it change you? No, she says, as though she just realized it. But it changed my family. Made them into people I don't recognize sometimes. That's life, I suppose. Why did you tell Cassius that you killed his brother? Are you that mad? I didn't tell him slag. The proctors did through the Jackal. Gave him a hollow cube. I see. Her eyes go cold. So they are cheating for the Archgovernor's son. And I just love the fact that she immediately knows the fucking deal. Like, just, 100% clocks it. And it's just like, oh, okay, that's what we're on? Oh, wow, cool. Just she's so disgusted. At this point, he goes to take a piss and he hears Mustang say Darrow. And he's like, this is weird. She doesn't call me by my name. She calls me Reaper. And she says, I thought I saw something. It's over here. And she's drawing him out. And I'm like, dude, this isn't her. Hello? Like, he's being played the same way again. Darrow. Oh my God. Finally, he realizes, but once again, it's a little bit too late. So I break into movement. I sprint back toward my army. Then I dash behind a tree, scramble up and wait. Then the snapping of twigs. Something moves through the woods. Something huge. And I love that it's something huge and he's like, oh, maybe it's Pax. I was like immediately going, it's like some kind of giant animal. But I love that he thought it was Pax. And then somebody puts a hand on his shoulder and he turns around and it's Apollo. And he's like, you're not supposed to be doing what you're doing. You gotta go north, bud. And Darrow doesn't even finish saying that he's not going to listen when Apollo shoves him off the tree branch and right into the, basically lap of a bear. And he runs, sprints, and manages to lead it right into a trap that he did not know was there. And I love this. My joy would have been longer lived if I didn't dance back and step into a second trap. The earth flips. Well, I do. My leg snaps upward and I fly into the air on the end of a rope. I dangle for hours, too frightened to call to my army for fear of Proctor Apollo. And finally, he gets rescued by Severo, who is, in charge of these traps. But I was like cracking up at the idea of it plummets onto this, like, these wooden spikes and he's fist pumping like, yeah, that's what you get. And then immediately hoisted on someone else's petard, granted, but nevertheless. Alex says some gays would love to be pushed into the lap of a bear. I don't doubt it. So Severo, I'm so delighted to see him again. There was something very reassuring about this dude. Like, we find out that Severo's people all bailed on Mars as soon as Darrow disappeared. And I was like, of course you did, because you're real ones. That's the drill. Y'all knew something was fishy and you got the fuck out. And I'm so proud of you. Severo only has one eye. And he doesn't get into the details about it. But I think I'm trying to remember exactly, because he basically says, like, I owe the Jackal, and gestures to it. And so it's like implied, but we don't get the real story of what exactly went down. Also, Severo has his sling blade. I kept it safe for you after finding it in the mud. And I was like, oh, see, now this is a ride or die, man. I love this so much. And I love it. Darrow, you're a friend. I hope you know that. Not a game friend, a real friend. You know that, yes? I'm not an idiot. He blushes all the same. I just love that he blushes after being called a real friend. Aw, it's precious. We sit fireside in the great woods, bathed in the light of crackling logs. Severo fought the Jackal after Cassius fed him the lie. My small friend doesn't get into details. He just taps his empty eye socket and says the Jackal owes me. I saw his knife, didn't even hear his voice, had to jump off the mountain. It was a long fall back to the rest of the pack. He says it so plainly, yet I did notice his limp. We couldn't stay in the mountains, his men everywhere. But we took some of the mountains with us, Thistle says. She pats the scalps on her waist with a motherly smile. Mustang shudders. Apollo, Venus, Mercury, and Pluto are all that's left, but I hear Mercury has been reduced to a force of roving vagabonds. A pity. I was fond of their proctor. He almost chose me in the draft. So, at this point, Darrow asks Severo, how fast can you run? Like, if you're running 2 kilometers. And he's like, maybe a minute and a half? And this comes up later. So Darrow takes off his ring. I love this so much. If I were a good person, I would keep the ring on. I would hold my tongue. But there are plans to make, gods to undo. I take my ring off and set it on the snow. Let us for one moment pretend we are not from different houses. Let's all of us talk as friends, ringless. He also says, I look at Mustang and feel hollow. I'll risk losing her just to win this rigged game. I don't really understand why he's thinking that unless he already suspects that she's potentially going to betray him. I genuinely wasn't sure what he meant by that. It feels like he's working with information that I do not yet have. So we jump from that scene ahead so that it's clear something has been established that we haven't gotten to see. So he splits up his army, and they basically just harass the shit out of Apollo. Fear gnaws at Apollo for a week. Our ranks swell, theirs diminish. I do not fear House Apollo. They're lumbering fools who cannot adjust to my tactics. What I fear is the Proctors and the Jackal. To me, they're one and the same. My lieutenants and I sit around the fire to discuss the tactics of the next day. And Severo starts talking about the Jackal. His castle is somewhere in the low mountains, subterranean, which makes sense if he's Pluto. Pluto wasn't ready, so the Jackal took control, had them retreat into their deep tunnels. Vulcan came howling in with advanced weapons from their forges. It was all going to be over. The Jackal would have been a slave from the first week on, so he collapsed the tunnel. No plan, no way out, in order to preserve his chance to win the game. Killed 10 of his own house. Medbots couldn't save anyone. Stranded 40 of the rest in the dark caves. Plenty of water, no food. They were there for nearly a month before they dug their way out. He smiles, and I remember why Fitchner called him Goblin. Guess what they ate? If a jackal is caught in a trap, it will chew off its own leg. Who told me that? And I can't remember. Was it Fitchner? Was it his uncle? And this is like, it says the fire crackles between us. I would have expected Mustang to shift uncomfortably. But instead what I see from her is anger as the details are relayed. Her jaw flexes and her face loses a shade. I grip her hand beneath the blanket, but it does not grip back. Again, he expects her to shift uncomfortably. Why? Why do you think that? Just because you're talking about basically cannibalism? Like, she's been through it. Why would that be the thing? Is it that the Jackal killed her brother? Like, was her brother here? She says, my brother died. It wasn't the same thing, but it changed my family. So if it changed her family, it had to have happened before this, which it can't make sense. So why is she so angry about this? Like, is she loyal to the Jackal and feeling a way about the fact that they know this much information about him? I don't know what her deal is. I do not know. Pax says, how did you find all that out? Severo taps one of his curved knives with a fingernail, allowing a soft ding into the night air. It echoes into the woods, bouncing off trees and returning to our ears like a lost phrase. Then I can hear nothing but the woods, nothing beyond the fire. My heart leaps into my throat and I catch Severo's eyes. He'll have to find Tactus. A jam field envelops us. So we don't find this out, but a jam field turns out to be because Apollo is here. And Apollo basically comes in and is like, how about all of you betray him? And then I could give you presents. And they are all like, how about you suck our cocks? And we won't give you any presents except to jizz all over your stupid face. And then Apollo's like, okay, fair. How about you guys back off or I do things that are bad to all of you and you don't make it out. I really am concerned about your well-being. And Mustang is like, oh, wow, our well-being, that's so nice. It's interesting, though, that you care so much when you're from another house. That's weird. Does my proctor know that you're here? Does Mars's? Does Juno's? Are you doing a naughty? I love that, a naughty. I just cracked up over that, you guys. I loved it so much. If you're not, then why the jam field? Or do others watch? Apollo's eyes harden. To be quite frank, your proctors don't know what you children are playing at. You had your chance, Virginia. You lost. Don't allow yourself to be bitter. Darrow here beat you fair and sound. Or did your winter together blind you to the fact that there can only be one winning house, only one victorious Primus? Were all of you truly so blinded? This boy can give you nothing. And this, honestly, was a pretty good argument. I can't lie. Because what he's saying is essentially, he's using y'all to shore up his, situation. But you can't win as a team. There's one winner, and y'all aren't even from the same house. Just because you banded together, this means nothing. Your houses are what we are counting. That's the only thing we see. So it's very lovely and touching that you have all decided to have one another's backs. It doesn't matter. It's not like he suddenly has created a house that we recognize and you're parts of that. He is just fucking up all your chances to have any sort of career beyond this because you're pissing so many people off by joining in with him. You're just screwed and you're letting it happen, and I'm embarrassed for you. And finally, Pax is like, would you let me whip you bloody? Darrow did. Let me whip you, and I'll obey like a pink. Promise on the graves of my ancestors. You're nothing more than a bureaucratic pixie, Milia hisses. Do us a favor and piss off. My lieutenants are loyal, though I shudder to think what Tactus or Severo would have said had they been around the fire with us. Yeah, that probably would have been pretty bad. So, at this point, Darrow's like, take your advice, shove it up your ass, and piss off. And a woman laughs, and they realize that there are other proctors inside the jam field watching. And Apollo's real pissed. The winter could get colder, children. When it gets cold outside, things die. Like wolves, like bears, like mustangs. I have a reply, and it is perfectly long-winded. I wonder, Apollo, what would happen if the drafters find out you're arranging to have the Archgovernor's son win? If you were, say, rigging the game like a bizarre crime lord. And Apollo freezes, and he just puts all of it out there. When you tried killing me with the bear, you failed, and now you're here threatening my friends. What are you going to kill all of us? And then how do you explain that? I love this. My lieutenants feign their shock. I say an imperator. I always want to say imperator of a fleet. He says it in the audiobook imperator, which feels wrong. So I'm going to say imperator, and I hope that you guys can all forgive me. Say an imperator, a legate, any of the drafters found out the Archgovernor was paying the proctors to cheat. Do you think there'd be consequences for the Archgovernor, for the proctors? Do you think they might care that their children are dying in a rigged game? And he looks to the other proctors. They wisely stay invisible. He must have drawn the short straw to come down here and be the face of their cheating. My lieutenants stay silent as he speaks. If they did find out, children, then there would be consequences for everyone. So feel free to guard your tongues while you have them. Which I was just like, consequences for everyone? You're acting like it's going to be bad for them. How would it be bad for them? You're the one that's fucking doing this. Like, it feels hollow to me. That's all I'm saying. I feel like he's attempting to, like, imply something vague enough, but it's actually complete horseshit. And he's just got no cards in his hand and he's just grasping at whatever. And at this point, when he says, guard your tongues, and Mustang says, or what? What do you think you're going to do? He says, you of all people should know. I don't understand his point, but this charade has run its course. I don't like that. Again, it's just like hinting at something in Mustang's past that clearly Darrow doesn't know about. I would hazard a guess it has to do with her brother, and I don't like any of it. So then, how fast can Severo run in 2 kilometers? And how far is Apollo's castle? Splendid. Mustang, do you know what I like most about jam fields? that no sound can get out? No, that no sound can get in. Apollo disengages the jam field and we hear the howls. They come from the distance 2 miles away from ramparts, from Apollo's castle. Medbots wail toward the cries, streaking across the distant sky. Venus, were you not watching them, you stupid? Apollo snarls at the empty air. The little one took off his ring, an invisible woman cries. They all took off their rings. I can't see anything without their rings on, and not in a jam field. I love it so much. This is the sneakiest and most satisfying win. I love Apollo being so wrapped up in his little threatening game that he doesn't notice it's happening. I love that they don't realize the thing with the rings, like the jig is up on that. I love the fact that it turns out they all had to climb through sewers to do this, so they're getting attacked from the inside by people covered in shit, which is just horrifying in so many ways. And Tactus is climbing the highest tower with a knife in his teeth. There, standing on the edge of the 100-meter parapet like some careless Greek champion, he pulls down his pants and pisses on the banner of House Apollo. I swear to God. This is a white, ornate castle, which of course it is. Apollo, I mean, come on. And eventually there's this one girl that manages to like snatch the standard and run off. I'm trying to find the spot here. My men in the towers howl as they sprint and jump down from their perches to join the battle. Their stained wolf cloaks reek. The cobblestones between my band and Apollo's lie thick with ankle-high drifts of snow. Take their Primus, Mustang whispers in my ear. She points to the tall, hard boy and smacks my butt. And I was very relieved because you guys remember back when Darrow slapped, was it Cassius's butt or Severo's butt? No, it was the poor guy that died because he was into that girl. But he did it as like a good luck. And I was so worried that this was a red thing. But since, well, ooh. I was going to say, since she did it, that's not a red thing. Or is it? Now I'm full of doubts. Oh no. All right. I'm just gonna not go down that road right now. So all told, we have this like incredible thing where Pax is like leading the charge, but then he stops and he vaults Darrow up into the air. I jump so his hand catches my foot and he launches me 10 meters forward. I'm howling the entire way like a thing torn from bloody damn nightmares until I smash into the bodyguards. 3 go down. A random spear catches my stomach and scrapes along my ribs, spinning me just as a trident pierces the air where my head had been. This whole thing is honestly deeply impressive. Like, come on. How do you not... This is the sort of thing that if this were the real world and not this weird like school test, the legend would grow until Pax vaulting him was no longer part of the story and it was just that he could leap 20 feet into the air. You know what I mean? This is just a really amazing moment. I shatter the head of the Apollo army in one mad charge. And the battle takes a collective breath as he wheels toward me like an elk turning on the leader of a wolf pack. We stalk towards one another. And Darrow breaks his leg, and it says he moans like a child. I sit on his chest, smug with the satisfaction that I did not moan like this when my legs were broken and rewoven. That's hard to say, in Mickey's carve shop. And I didn't really want to point it out, but I'm going to. That Darrow is like, I didn't moan like that, but Darrow, you talk about literally crying like a child after being pierced in the stomach. So like, I'm not saying that those are equivalent things. One is a deadly wound, and so I understand. However, I do just want to be like, sir, I don't know if you want to get that high on yourself. Only one member of House Apollo escapes, a fast girl, but an unimportant member. She jumps from the highest tower and simply floats down to the ground with her house's standard, almost like magic. Indeed, a couple of things fall into place for her that shouldn't, and it's very obvious that Apollo is out here completely, like, with a hand in every step of her escape. And eventually, they go after her and get her and take the standard. And Darrow is like, I win. And now Apollo will have to leave Olympus. And I started to be like, oh, will he though? Will he have to? Because Darrow, once again, you just keep relying on the rules. I understand why you think it has to happen this way. You've been told this is how it goes. But a lot of things are supposed to go a certain way. I don't know, Bo. I don't know. So then he's like, okay, Jupiter, that's the one I need to worry about. They are completely unbroken and they can still hurt us. A quick rage overtakes me along with another darker passion, one of arrogance, furious, mad arrogance. I grab the pulse spear, cock my arm, and hurl the weapon as hard as I can at the gathered proctors. My army watches this act of impudence. The 3 proctors scatter after the pulse spear goes through their shield. They turn to look at me. Fire glitters in their eyes. But the passion in me was not quenched by a mere spear throw. I hate these scheming fools. I will ruin them. And again, I'm just like, oh, dude. I know you think you can, but again, you're thinking about doing it all within the rules they control. I don't know. And everybody begins to chant his name, and he is really like, this is it. This is like, we're on our way. And I was able to enjoy it all while it was happening. But once he's had this moment, I'm starting to be like, you're really, really making it so you can't walk any of this back. And I don't know what this means for you. So, 39. There's a conversation between him and Mustang and the fact that he has reached this level of myth, basically. They use it as an excuse not to compete with you. Because how could Hephaestus compete with Alexander or Antonius with Caesar? My insides knot. This is but a game, and they love me this much. When the rebellion comes, these boys and girls will be my enemies, and I will replace them with Reds. How fanatical then will those Reds be? And what will that fanaticism matter a lick if they have to stand against creatures like Severo, like Tactus, like Pax and Mustang? And this is the sort of thing that, like, I realize again, I fall into this trap of, well, maybe these guys won't be your enemies. Maybe because they've seen how the game is rigged, they will begin to understand where you're coming from a little bit better. But I do not believe, when I really take a step back, that it extends that far. They feel wronged because they're golds and they deserve better than this. But Reds are Reds, and they do not deserve better. They are indignant on behalf of their caste, basically. But they, I don't believe, have a more big picture sense of injustice at all. So, anyway, this is when Fitchner comes to visit. And at first, Darrow isn't willing to send Mustang away. And at first I was sort of like, why does he keep wanting her gone? But later on when he says, like, you better watch out for her, basically, I was like, oh, maybe he doesn't want her to know stuff. He has not left Olympus like he thought. Like he ought. It's just a mess. Apollo was getting a juicy appointment if the Jackal won. Same with Jupiter and some of the others. There was talk of one of the Praetor Knight positions opening up on Luna. So what is to be done? What's the point of all this, he asks me. You get an apprenticeship no matter. The point is to show them they can't gore well cheat in their own game. It's about merit. No, it's about politics. So, Mustang, what do you think about the Archgovernor cheating for his son? Mustang shrugs. Kill or be killed. Cheat or be cheated. Those are the rules I've seen Orients follow, especially Peerless Scarred. Cheat or be cheated. Fitchner taps his upper lip. Interesting. You should know about the cheating part, she says. You need to let Darrow and me have a word, Mustang. And when he says it, he keeps emphasizing her name in such a way. I can't tell if there's more to it than simply mocking her nickname, or if there's like, you know what I mean? This just feels so pointed. She agrees to leave, and I couldn't help but feel like she's agreeing to leave because something about the way he's addressing her is telling her he's just about ready to blow up her spot. And she knows that she can't let that happen. And so she's like, oh, it's fine. I'm bored of your proctor, but I think there's fucking more going on there. But again, I also may just be deeply paranoid. I don't know. So Fitchner pulls a box out of his pocket, and it's Dancer's knife ring. I flex the joint and a blade pops out, extending along the top of the finger 8 inches. I flex the joint again, and it slithers home. The Obsidians took it from you before you went through the passage. Yes, I was told it was your father's. Someone told you that? How very inaccurate of them. You don't need to be snide, lad. You came here to win an apprenticeship. You've done that. If you keep pushing the proctors, they will kill you. I seem to remember us already having this conversation. Darrow, there is no slagging point to what you are doing. What does beating the Archgovernor's boy achieve? Everything. It proves I'm the best gold in this school. It shows I can do whatever they can. Why should I even speak to you, Fitchner? I've done all this without your help. I don't need you. Apollo tried to kill me, and you did nothing. Nothing. So what exactly do I owe you? Maybe this? I let the blade slither out. Don't talk to me like I'm a fool. Look at me. Look at me, you condescending little twit. Everything I have, I've had to fight for. I was not born to an Archgovernor's household. This is as far as I could ever go. Yet I should go so much further. My son should go further, but he can't and he won't. He'll die if he tries. Everyone has a limit they can't skip past. Yours is higher than mine, but it's not as high as you'd gory well like. If you go past it, they'll knock you down. And this is when finally Darrow is like, oh my God, you're Severo's father. And I was like, it never even occurred to me that you could be a proctor with one of your own kids in the game. That feels like a profound conflict of interest that shouldn't be allowed. But also, maybe it's sort of unavoidable past a certain point, you know? And he's worried for his kid being in league, so to speak, with Darrow, to which Darrow's like, then help us. And he's like, I can't do that. They would just completely end my career. And it wouldn't, again, you're not accomplishing anything. There'll be no change, never is. Know your damn place or you won't make it out of this, boyo. The trap's already set for you. You're walking right into it. Not the Jackal or Fitchner or Apollo's. It's, let's see. I'm sorry, guys, or Fitchner. He's Fitchner. I'm ready for the Jackal's traps or Apollo's makes no difference. And he says, no, not their traps, the girls. And I want to believe he's just fucking with him, but I don't know. Good luck, Darrow, but take care of Severo. The little shit will follow you anywhere no matter what I say. I'll take care of him, I promise. My Helldiver grip tightens on his hand. Because they have shaken hands. For a moment, if only a moment, We are friends. Then he winces as the pressure my hand is putting on his increases. He laughs at first. Then he understands and his eyes widen. Sorry, I say. That's when I break his nose and slam my elbow into his temple till he no longer moves. I do not know what Darrow is trying to do here by taking Fitchner prisoner. Like, I genuinely do not know what he's hoping to accomplish with this. It feels like a profoundly bad idea. I don't get it. Does he think the proctors won't act if he's got a hostage? They don't like Fitchner. It seems like he doesn't fit in with them. I don't think he's leverage over them. And I don't believe Darrow thinks that either. So I don't get it. I don't get it. This is the conversation where he says to Mustang, I'm wondering when you'll betray me. Cheat or be cheated. Are you going to cheat me? She said. No, because what advantage would you gain? You and I have beaten this game. They would have us believe one must win at the cost to all the rest. That isn't true, and we're proving it. You have my trust because when you saw me hiding in the mud after taking my castle, you let me escape. And I have your trust because I pulled you from the mud when Cassius left you for dead. So there is the answer. You're going to do great things, Darrow. She never calls me Darrow. Maybe you don't have to do them alone. And the fact that she never calls him Darrow, but she does it here. And there was that trap where he thought, that's not Mustang. She never calls me Darrow. But what if it was Mustang? I don't know. I don't know, you guys. This is terrible. So this is when he's like, all right, I know we were all looking forward to arrest, but we've got to deal with Jupiter right now. We're going to surprise them. And she's like, we can't. They're listening to everything. We have our rings on. Even if we make it through this storm, what will taking Jupiter accomplish? If Apollo didn't leave when his house lost, Jupiter won't either. We should go after the Jackal now. And he says, I can't. We need more allies before we deal with the Jackal. So they bundle up, go out into this fucking blizzard, which is horrible. Eventually the snows cease and spring comes fast and hard, which confirms my suspicions. The proctors are playing games. Are they able to control this like in the arena? I don't feel like I really realize that. It makes sense, right? But I feel like there's more they could have done to punish him then. I don't know how much they're allowed to do, but I mean, Apollo literally shoved him out of a tree into the path of a bear. I feel like that should be enough. I don't know. So they lay siege to Jupiter. And this thin boy comes out and basically completely capitulates after this, like, a few days of a siege. It's not enough. His smiles are quick, almost as if he's worried we might disapprove of them. The ring on his finger is that of Jupiter. He looks hungry because it barely fits on him any longer. Which, maybe it's not his ring, just saying. Name is Lucian, the boy says, trying to sound manly. He seems to think Pax is in charge. Pax booms a laugh and points to me and my sling blade. Lucian flinches when he looks at me. I think he well knew I was the leader. And he tells them we haven't got any food, and he is kind of weepy, and there's a sense of shame to him because he knows that just surrendering like this is a bad look. but they do it. So they go into the castle. They're going to be inside. It's going to be great to have like dry beds and stuff. And our bread and meats are like heaven to the starved defenders of Jupiter. Lucian and his lot, all skinny, tired-looking souls, eat so fast that Nyla is fussing about them ripping their guts. She runs around telling them each the smoked horse meat isn't galloping off anywhere. And there's a point at which they were, let's see. Oh, here it is. What do you think of our hosts? I ask Melia. I say put them under the sigil. You really don't like to keep promises, do you? Promises are just chains, both meant for breaking. I tell her to leave the Jupiterians alone, but then loudly command her to fetch the wine we scavenged on our trek to Jupiter. She takes some boys and brings up the barrels from Bacchus' store. I order you to get drunk, I roar to my army. They look at me like I'm mad. Get drunk? One says. Yes! I cut him off before he can say more. Can you manage that? Act like fools for once. And there had been a mention earlier of the fact that the stores at Bacchus were just grapefruit or grape juice. It was not wine like they were hoping. So one would have thought I understood what was happening here, but I was not getting it. I was not putting two and two together. We'll try, Melia cries, won't we? She answers in cheers. Are you contradicting me? I demand. Pax hesitates, but manages to nod his giant head. I draw my sling blade from its black scabbard. 100 eyes go to us. And he tells him, Pax, go run patrols in the storm and rain, and they think it's like a punishment for him not following instructions. So he says to Lucian, discipline is one of mankind's best traits, even in big brutes like that. But he's right. No wine for you tonight. That you must earn. I make a big show of giving ceremonial wolf cloaks to the slaves of Venus and Bacchus who earned their freedom in taking this fortress. Lucian sits in the corner with the other 7 defenders watching our soldiers make a show of falling asleep atop tables in front of the fire along the walls. And once he says make a show of, and he had said something about how Pax was a good actor, I'm like, okay, they're clearly not actually drunk. And I'm starting to understand. Despite Lucian's meekness, I find him curious. His eyes rarely meet mine, and his shoulders slump, but his hands never go to his trouser pockets, never fold to guard himself. I ask him about the war with Mars. As I thought, it's almost won. He says something about a girl betraying Mars. Sounds like Antonia to me. Lucian's friends are tired, so I give them leave to go try to find beds. They won't be a problem. Lucian stays to talk. And this is when Mustang comes in, and she sees Darrow and Lucian, and gets sort of a weird look on her face. And Darrow is like, oh, sorry, babe, we drank all of the wine already. And she says, getting shit-faced seems a prime idea at a time like this, she says strangely. She looks back to Lucian, then to me. She doesn't like something. I introduce her to Lucian. He mumbles how nice it is to meet her. She snorts a laugh. You know, she clearly, they know each other. She's dealt with him. She gets something here. But I can't decide if she's worried for Darrow or for Lucian. I don't know, you guys. I'm just, I don't know. So he sends her off to find Pax. We talk for nearly an hour. Gradually, he lets himself relax. He's telling me of his childhood, demanding father, family expectations. But he's not pitiful when he does this. He's realistic, a trait I admire. It's no longer necessary for him to avoid my eyes when we talk. His shoulders don't hunch quite so much, and he becomes pleasant, even funny. I laugh loudly 6 times. So eventually he says, "What's your deal though, dude? I'm telling you all about myself. What's brought you here? I don't think I've heard of your family." And finally, he says, "See that pack beside you? There's a bag in it. Grab it for me. Let me see your hand." "My hand?" he asks with a laugh. "Right. Just put it out, please. Come on, man. There's this theory I've been working on." "How does this tell your story or theory?" And he puts his hand out. "It's a complicated one. Better to show you." I open the bag and dump out its contents. A score of golden sigil rings roll across the table. Lucian watches them roll. And he looks through them and he's like, "This is so weird. All of these are from kids the Medbots couldn't save, and there's no Pluto." I look up at him. His eyes are different. Dead. Quiet. "Oh, there's one." And again, I'll confess, I read ahead a little bit. Darrow drives a dagger through his hand. Spoilers for the very start of chapter 41. His mouth gasps open at the pain. And this is what Darrow is expecting. Then something decidedly human in his recovery. There's something primal to his initial frenzied panic, then something decidedly human in his recovery, which seems more brutally cold than my act of violence. He calms himself faster than anyone I've ever seen. It takes a breath, maybe 3, and he leans back in his chair as though we were at drinks. "Well, shit," he says tightly. You guys, that was the moment where I'm going, "Oh, Darrow, I don't know about this dude." I want to believe if somebody did this to Darrow, he would be able to pull off a similarly, calm veneer. I don't know that he could. There is something about the description of his eyes as dead that makes me go, this guy's nuts, dude. Setting aside that all goals have to be a little bit off their fucking rockers to be living in this world, this sounds like somebody who is a psychopath. He killed his people and ate them. That's not normal behavior. No matter how much you want to win, that tactic would not even occur to most people. And then he's able to, be friendly in a way that's genuinely disarming, but all of a sudden turn ice cold in a way that's totally different. That's a kind of acting that is beyond just lying. That's different. It's just different. The whole thing feels like this guy is on another level, and Darrow is badass and has supporters, but this guy, he feels like, I don't like it. I feel like maybe Darrow has bit off more than he can chew here. That's all I'm saying. And honestly, if this dude is indeed the Jackal, which I'm assuming at this point, I want Darrow to just kill him. I understand kind of wanting to suss out more about him, but really in the end, I kind of want him to just kill him. But that's what Severo did to the kid that they had plans for. And that did not help Severo out at all. So as much as I kind of want Darrow to do that, I don't know that that helps anything. So anyway, I've got to wrap. I'm so over time. People are out here making Donner jokes in the chat. Alex, I see you. Yeah. Anyway, you guys, I have got to go. Thank you so much though for commissioning these. I'm having such a blast reading this book. I hope you guys are enjoying the coverage. Until next time, Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.